Millionaire twins refused to touch a bite until their new black nanny made a move. Their widowed father married her. "She will not feed my grandchildren," Vivian Blackwood shrieked across the grand halls of the $3 million estate, her finger stabbing the air toward comma. "Look at her, Thomas. Can you honestly believe someone like that could raise heirs of our name?" Camilla held her ground quietly at the edge of the marble-tiled kitchen, hands around her purse, expression calm as the storm brewed. At just 28, a nurse with honors from Atlanta University, she had seen bias before, but never like this. Thomas Blackwood, now alone for 8 months, glanced nervously between the woman he'd hired and his mother-in-law. His twins, 5-year-old Lily and James, barely ate since their mother died, each day growing thinner. 3 former nannies, white and approved by Vivian, had all failed. "Mother, please," Thomas began, only to be silenced at once. "Don't you start, Thomas. You brought her in without so much as asking me. Their kind uses odd remedies, foreign meals. What if they're dangerous? What if I can actually help?" Camilla said, gently but firmly, her calm tones slicing through Vivian's hysteria. "Because from where I stand, your proper care has left them starving." A sharp hush followed. Vivian gawked at her nerve while Thomas blinked, stunned by the resolve in Camilla's voice. Upstairs, the children's soft sobbing echoed, a daily soundtrack since the burial. Camilla, raised by a single mom in Atlanta's outskirts, had worked non-stop from age 14. After losing her dad at 6, she studied child trauma. She could spot mourning children anywhere, and she knew exactly what to do. Still, she was stepping into enemy ground. "Can I at least try?" she asked, facing Thomas and ignoring Vivian's glare. "Give me 3 days. If they won't eat a full meal by then, I'll leave peacefully." "Thomas!" Vivian snapped. "You can't be serious." 3 days, he agreed, offering his hand. "But only if my mother-in-law monitors everything." Camilla gripped it, feeling the tension in his bitten nails. "Perfect," she replied. "Maybe she'll learn something in the process." As Vivian gasped, Thomas stood between conflict and hope, while Camilla remained serene. They didn't know she'd studied everything about this family, their pain, their secrets. She wasn't just here to get the kids to eat. If this story of resilience and race moves you, subscribe now, because the next 3 days would redefine that mansion and expose truths the Blackwoods had long buried. In just 15 minutes of arriving, Camilla already saw signs the others missed. Lily curled beneath the stairs with a filthy blanket no one had cleaned. James stayed locked in his room, building and smashing block towers. Trauma in action. Vivian pointed at Camilla, who knelt to Lily's level. "She's ruining my Persian rug, Thomas. That rug cost $15,000. But Thomas stood still, watching Lily stop crying for the first time in months. "She's connecting with them," he murmured. "Connecting?" Vivian scoffed. "They belong in kitchens, not nurseries. My grandchildren need culture, not this." Camilla said nothing as Lily whispered, "Grandma doesn't like you." "She didn't like the last nanny either," Camilla replied. "Too young, too short. And now?" "Because you're black," Lily said bluntly. "And what do you think about that?" Camilla asked softly. "Mommy used to say people of all colors make the world pretty, like rainbows." Thomas felt his chest tighten. That was Isabella. She did say that. He had forgotten. Vivian, listening, turned pale. "Thomas, you can't let her talk like that. She's corrupting their minds." "Corrupting them with what?" Thomas snapped suddenly. "That different people deserve respect?" As the argument grew louder, Camilla knelt by James, who had wandered into the hall. Pale, thin, twitching, classic signs she'd seen during her years in Atlanta's trauma ward. "James," she whispered, "when did you last sleep through the night?" The boy blinked, stunned. "No one's asked me that. I dream mommy's lost and hungry." Camilla nodded. Survivor's guilt, parental loss trauma. She knew the markers well. "Want to hear a secret?" she said gently. "I lost my daddy when I was your age, but I learned they're never truly gone if they're in our hearts." He stared, eyes wide. She'd hit a chord. Meanwhile, in the living room, Thomas and Vivian clashed. "She's manipulating them," Vivian barked. "They do things their own way, ways that don't belong in our family." "You mean talking to them like humans?" Thomas asked coldly. "You know what I mean." They're raised in chaos. They don't understand upper-class parenting. What if she causes a scandal? Camilla rose, walked calmly toward Vivian. Mrs. Blackwood, she said in a voice that quieted the room. You're right, I didn't grow up like you. Vivian smirked, thinking she'd won. I grew up watching my mother clean houses so I could finish school, earned my degree in pediatric nursing, specialized in trauma recovery, and learned that skin color doesn't measure compassion. A stunned silence fell. Thomas looked at her, admiration in his eyes. Nursing? He repeated. Pediatric trauma, Camilla nodded. 8 years at Atlanta Children's Hospital. Your children show clear signs of PTSD and grief-related depression, treatable with time and proper care. Vivian's face drained of color. But you applied as a nanny, she said weakly. Because, Camilla smiled faintly, sometimes we're exactly where we need to be, and these kids need more than a nanny. That day, with Vivian cornered and Thomas finally seeing the truth, Camilla knew her real work had just begun. None of them yet knew her reasons ran deeper. Her coming was no accident. Vivian's every insult only fueled her inner fire. Years of being underestimated had led her to this. Over the next 3 days, miracles began to... Lily and James not only ate, they asked for more. Camilla used a technique from her hospital days, emotional reconnection. She's drugging them, Vivian hissed, watching from the window as Kama played outside. This isn't normal. But Thomas couldn't look away. It had been so long since he'd seen smiles like those. Lunches became learning sessions with animal sandwiches and nutrition stories. Does she have a real degree? Vivian sneered at dinner. Some Southern schools aren't credible. Atlanta University, Thomas said. Top in pediatric studies, highest honors. Vivian huffed. Still, Margaret Wellington called me. She's heard. People are talking. Just then, Camilla appeared with a tablet. Mr. Blackwood, may I update you? I've documented their progress per protocol. Thomas nodded. Vivian interrupted. We're having family dinner. This is a family matter, Camilla said, sliding over charts. Lily gained 2.5 pounds. James hasn't had a nightmare in 3 days. They're healing. Thomas flipped through pages, charts, photos, logs, flawless detail. Where'd you learn this? Standard at the hospital, Camilla said. There's more. Vivian sat back, uncomfortable. James mentioned a song, said his mom sang it, but a different version, called it the Black Mommy song. The room froze. Thomas dropped the tablet. What? Kids remember things, Camilla replied. Things adults want buried. James also spoke of a friend who sang when his mom was sick. Her phone buzzed. A message she'd been waiting for. Excuse me, she stepped into the garden. Dr. Peterson, she whispered. Yes, I got access. They don't suspect. And yes, the kids remember Grace. The voice on the line, Dr. James Peterson, her former boss, sighed. Camilla accusing a powerful family of hiding a death. Doctor, she said coldly, we both know Isabella didn't die in a car crash. She died of lymphoma. And Grace Williams, her nurse, vanished days before. Grace, my sister. I came here for answers. What kind of person would erase a black woman after she dedicated her life to comforting a dying patient? Through the large window, Thomas observed Camilla on the phone. Her posture, her stillness, the intensity of her gaze, all of it told him that call wasn't routine. Vivian, he said quietly, do you remember the nurse Isabella hired near the end? The one we thought was helping with fatigue. Vivian's face went ghost white. Why bring this up now, Thomas? Because, he replied, eyes following Camilla as she walked back in, I think our new nanny knows far more about our family than she's letting on. When Camilla returned, her expression had shifted. It was still composed, still courteous, but there was something in her eyes now. A quiet intensity that made Vivian sit up straighter, uneasy. Sorry about that, Camilla said, tucking her phone away. Just a hospital follow-up? Some cases never really stay in the past. Chapter 9. Thomas and Vivian exchanged looks, realizing her words carried much more weight than they let on. Well, Vivian offered, forcing a brittle smile, I think we're done here. Thomas, don't you have business calls to make? But Thomas wasn't listening. He was still watching Camilla. Something about her seemed both magnetic and unsettling. Camilla smiled gently. "I'll check on the children now. Good evening, Mr. Blackwood, Mrs. Blackwood." As she ascended the staircase, Thomas felt a chill, not from fear, but from knowing something pivotal had just shifted. He didn't yet understand how deep this story ran, or that Camilla's presence was never a coincidence, but a strategic first step in a long, calculated plan. The following Friday, exactly 1 week after she arrived, Camilla descended to breakfast with a briefcase and her tablet. Thomas immediately sensed the change in her demeanor. Every move she made felt final, like a chess player making her last inevitable checkmate. "Morning," she greeted calmly, flipping pancakes as the twins ran to her arms. Vivian entered, froze at the sight of the briefcase. "Leaving already?" she snapped. "Because if you are, I told you so." "Actually," Camilla said softly, "I've brought something that belongs to your family." She placed a photo on the marble counter. Thomas leaned in and gasped. It showed Isabella, frail in a hospital bed, clutching hands with a black woman in a white coat. "Do you know her?" Camilla asked quietly. Vivian stiffened like stone. Thomas touched the photo with shaking fingers. "That's Grace Williams," Camilla confirmed, her voice calm but laced with steel. "A cancer care nurse. She treated Isabella for the final 6 months, when everyone thought she was just tired." "I don't understand," Thomas murmured, but his eyes betrayed that he did. "She's my older sister," Camilla said. The silence that followed could have broken glass. "And she vanished 3 days before Isabella passed. Coincidentally, that's when the will was changed, affecting your kid's inheritance." Vivian finally sputtered. This is blackmail. Thomas, call the police." Camilla gave a short, dry laugh as she pulled out more files. "Let's talk about what real blackmail looks like." She fanned out documents, bank statements, contracts. "Here's a $50,000 wire to Grace for staying quiet. And here's the NDA you made her sign. Oh, and this," she produced an audio recording. "A phone call where you threatened to report Grace to immigration if she didn't disappear." Thomas gasped. "Mom, tell me you didn't." "She did," Camilla said, pressing play. Vivian's voice filled the room, sharp and cruel. "Isabella is gone. You got your money. Leave before I make sure you're deported like the parasite you are." Thomas paled. Vivian opened her mouth, but no words came. "Grace had 24 hours to flee," Camilla went on. "She abandoned her home, her dreams, because a privileged woman feared what she knew." "You can't prove this?" Vivian hissed. Camilla's smile turned icy. "I can. I have every call, every message, every transfer. Grace expected someone like you would try to bury her." Thomas looked lost. "Isabella had cancer?" 6 months. Lymphoma," Camilla nodded. "She wanted to shield you from the pain. Grace respected that, even knowing she'd be blamed later." "So you came for revenge?" Vivian asked. "I came for justice," Camilla corrected. "And to make sure Lily and James know how their mom really died, with love and care, not in a car wreck." Turning to Thomas, she said, "Isabella left letters, one for every birthday until the kids turn 18. Grace kept them safe. They're here." She pointed to her folder. Thomas cried silently. "Daddy?" Lily tugged his shirt, concerned. "Why are you sad?" Vivian tried one last gambit. "Thomas, don't believe her. She came with a plan." "I did," Camilla admitted, "to learn what happened to Grace. But I stayed because 2 children were hurting, and in doing so, I found something unexpected." She looked at Thomas. "I found a good man who deserved the truth, and kids who deserved their mother's real legacy." Thomas approached, eyes wet but firm. "What do you want? Money? Compensation?" "I want Grace home," Camilla answered. "To be acknowledged for her loyalty when your family turned its back, and for Vivian to be held accountable." "You can't!" Vivian shrieked. "I have lawyers, friends in high places." "And I," Camilla replied, "have truth, proof, and something you'll never have, a clean conscience." In that moment, Vivian saw her empire crumble. Thomas realized how much he'd lost, and Camilla knew justice had begun. But the real win wasn't Vivian's disgrace, it was Grace's freedom. and Lily and James knowing the truth. 6 months later, the headline read, "Socialite convicted, $2 million fine for racial discrimination. Vivian lost her fortune, her titles, and her status. She sold the mansion. She's in a small flat now," Thomas told Camilla, watching the kids laugh in their modest garden. "She finally learned money can't buy dignity." Camilla smiled, adjusting the engagement ring Thomas gave her last month. He'd proposed over burnt pancakes and chilled giggles, just like she'd always imagined. "And Grace?" Thomas asked, as he always did. "She's launching her clinic next week," Camilla beamed. "With funds from the case and donations from her story, she'll treat children who need it most, free of charge, just like she dreamed." Grace became a local hero. Interviews, speeches, and most importantly, public redemption. "Daddy! Camilla!" Lily squealed, running to them. "Aunt Grace is here!" Grace entered, gift in hand. At 35, her eyes sparkled again, the light restored after years in exile. "These are the letters," she said, handing over the box. "One for every birthday. Isabella wanted them to know her love never faded." "She met her?" James asked, confused. Grace smiled. "Your mom saw her photo in the hospital. Said, 'That girl has eyes filled with love. If Thomas needs someone, I hope it's her.'" The wind rustled the trees and laughter from the yard floated in the air. "So Mom knew," Lily whispered. "Mothers always know," Camilla replied, hugging them close. "She chose love for you." 3 days later, the Grace Williams Clinic for Pediatric Care opened. A crowd gathered. Thomas gave the first donation, $100,000. "To right a wrong," he said, "and to build a world where no one is judged by skin, but skill." Across town, in a dim apartment, Vivian watched the speech alone. Her empire gone, her name tainted, she understood too late. Prejudice had cost her all she held dear. That night, after putting the children to bed, Camilla reflected on the journey that brought her there. She came as a nanny. Now she was a fiancée, a second mother, a woman who had helped rebuild something greater. "Any regrets?" Thomas asked. "Just that I waited so long," Camilla said honestly. "Grace lost 2 years waiting for my courage. And I regret," Thomas said, "that I didn't see sooner how extraordinary you are." In the end, Vivian Blackwood's cruelty had tried to silence a brilliant black woman. Instead, she exposed her own ugliness and gave 2 sisters the chance to rise. The irony? In trying to confine Grace, she paved her path to triumph. Camilla learned the best revenge isn't destruction, it's creation, creating joy, love, legacy, turning hatred into fuel. Have you ever seen prejudice backfire on those who spread it? How would you respond if someone close was a victim of injustice? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more stories proving that courage, not cruelty, always wins.